Check your pocket change right now, because a plain-looking 1944 penny with no mint mark could be worth a life-changing amount of money. And most people have no idea it even exists. Yeah, I'm serious. This isn't some rare coin locked away in a museum. This is a coin that looks completely normal, one you could easily overlook, or worse, spend without thinking. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what to look for, because one tiny detail could turn a 1-cent coin into something worth thousands, or even more. So here's the story. Back in 1944, the US was still deep in World War II. Copper was needed for ammunition, wiring, and military equipment. So the year before, in 1943, pennies were made from steel instead of copper. But in 1944, the mint switched back to copper pennies, or at least, that's what was supposed to happen. Here's where things get weird. Some leftover steel blanks from 1943 accidentally got mixed into the production line in 1944. That means a few 1944 pennies were struck on steel instead of copper. And those mistakes? They became some of the most valuable coins in existence. Now here's the twist that most people miss. You might think, okay, so I just need a 1944 steel penny. But wait, there's another version that's just as shocking. Some 1944 pennies were made from recycled shell casings, giving them a slightly different composition than normal coins. These are called shell case cents, and while they're not worth millions, they can still be worth a lot more than face value. But the real jackpot? It's the 1944 steel penny with no mint mark. Let me explain why that. No mint mark. Detail matters so much. Coins made in Philadelphia, the main U.S. mint, usually didn't have a mint mark back then. So if you find a 1944 penny with no mint mark, it means it was made in Philadelphia. And guess what? The rarest and most valuable 1944 steel pennies came from Philadelphia. That means if you find a 1944 penny with no mint mark, and it sticks to a magnet, you might be holding one of the rarest coins ever made. Let's pause for a second. Go grab a magnet. Seriously. Because this is where things get real. A normal 1944 penny should not stick to a magnet. It's made of copper. But if it does stick, that's your first big clue. Now imagine this. You're going through an old jar of coins. Dusty, forgotten, maybe sitting in your house for years. You pick up a 1944 penny. It looks dull, maybe a little worn. Nothing special, right? But then you remember this video. You grab a magnet. And suddenly, click. It sticks. That's the moment everything changes. Because if that coin is real, and we'll talk about how to tell, it could be worth more than a brand new car or even a house. But hold on. Don't get too excited just yet. There are fakes out there. Some people try to trick others by plating a steel 1943 penny with copper and altering the date to look like 1944. Others might modify the numbers. So here's what you need to watch for. First, check the date carefully. A real 1944 should have clean, natural-looking numbers. If the 4 looks tampered with or uneven, that's a red flag. Second, weigh the coin. A genuine steel penny weighs about 2.7 grams. A copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams. That small difference can tell you a lot. Third, look at the color. Steel pennies usually have a gray or silver tone, even if they've aged. If your 1944 penny looks silver and sticks to a magnet, now you're really onto something. And here's another quick test. Tap it gently on a hard surface. A steel coin has a different sound than copper, slightly higher pitched. Now imagine stacking all these clues together. 1944 date, no mint mark, magnetic, steel appearance, correct weight. If your coin checks all those boxes, you might be holding one of the rarest error coins in US history. So, how much are we talking? This is the part everyone waits for, because the value, it's not just a little more than a penny. It's not even a few $100s. A genuine 1944 steel penny with no mint mark has sold for over $100,000 at auction. Let that sink in. $100,000 for a coin most people would ignore. And in top condition, some experts believe these coins could reach even higher prices, especially as collectors compete for the few known examples. We're talking about fewer than 30 confirmed pieces. That's it. Less than 30 in the entire world, which means the odds of finding one are insanely low, but not zero. And that's what makes this so exciting, because coins like this don't always stay in collections. They get lost, they get spent, they end up in jars, drawers, and old piggy banks, just waiting to be discovered. Now here's something even crazier. People have found valuable coins in places you'd never expect. Garage sales, inherited coin jars, even loose change from stores. Which means your next big discovery might not come from a coin shop. It might come from your own home. So here's what I want you to do right now. Check every 1944 penny you can find. Look at the date. Check for a mint mark. Test it with a magnet. And don't rush it, because missing one tiny detail could cost you thousands. And imagine the feeling. You're sitting there, holding a coin worth more than your entire savings, and you almost didn't notice it. That's the kind of moment that changes everything. Before you go, I've got a question for you. Have you ever checked your old coins for rare errors like this? Or do you have a jar of pennies sitting somewhere right now? Because if you do, you might want to take a closer look. You never know what's hiding in plain sight. Most people ignore pennies. They toss them in jars, leave them in cars, or drop them on the ground without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific penny from 1955, no mint mark, nothing fancy at first glance, has turned ordinary people into overnight jackpot winners? And here's the crazy part. It doesn't look valuable unless you know exactly what to look for. Let me tell you a quick story. A man in the US was going through a jar of old coins his grandfather left behind. Nothing special, just loose change, dusty, forgotten. But one coin caught his eye. It looked off. The letters didn't look quite right. Almost blurry, like they were double. At first, he thought it was damaged, but that damage turned out to be one of the most famous and valuable minting errors in history. That coin? A 1955 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, and a rare doubling error that collectors go absolutely crazy for. Now stay with me, because what I'm about to show you could change how you look at every penny forever. Back in 1955, something unusual happened at the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia. During the production process, a mistake occurred while creating the coin dies. The tools used to stamp the design onto the coin. Instead of a clean, single image, the die received a second, slightly offset impression. That mistake created what's called a double die error. But not just any double die. This one was extreme. We're talking about bold, visible doubling on the words "Liberty, in God we trust." And the date, 1955. You don't need a microscope. You can literally see it with your eyes. Now here's where it gets even crazier. These error coins weren't caught right away. They were released into circulation. That means thousands of these flawed pennies ended up in everyday pocket change, mixed in with normal coins, unnoticed by most people. Imagine buying a soda, getting change, and accidentally receiving a coin that could be worth a fortune. And people did. For years, these coins quietly circulated. Some were spent. Some were lost. Some are probably still hiding in jars, drawers, and old collections right now. So how do you know if you have one? First, check the date. It must say 1955. Second, look for the mint mark. Here's the key detail. There should be no mint mark under the date. That means it was made in Philadelphia. But don't get excited just yet, because millions of 1955 pennies exist. The real secret is in the doubling. Look closely at the front of the coin. Do the letters look like they've been duplicated? Almost like a shadow or echo. Especially in Liberty and In God We Trust. If yes, your heart should start racing. Because that's the famous 1955 double die obverse penny. Now let's talk about why this tiny mistake is worth so much money. Collectors love errors, not small ones. Big, obvious, dramatic mistakes that shouldn't exist. And this coin? It's one of the most dramatic error coins ever made in US history. It's rare, but not impossible to find. That combination, rare, but still discoverable, is what drives people wild. It creates this feeling of, what if? What if the next penny you check is the one? What if you've had it all along? Now here comes the part everyone waits for. How much is it actually worth? Well, it depends on the condition. If the coin is worn out, scratched, and heavily used, it can still sell for thousands of dollars. Yes, thousands, for a penny. But if the coin is in better condition, sharp details, less wear, that value jumps dramatically. We're talking tens of thousands. And in near perfect condition, these coins have sold for over $100,000, sometimes even approaching the $1 million range when tied to premium quality, grading, and collector demand. Let that sink in. A 1-cent coin, worth more than a house. Now pause for a second. How many pennies have you ignored in your life? How many have slipped through your fingers? That's the part that gets people. Because this isn't some ancient treasure locked in a museum. This is something that was in everyday circulation. Regular people found these, not experts, not treasure hunters. Just normal folks who paid attention. And here's something even more shocking. There are fake versions out there. Some people try to mimic the doubling artificially. So, if you think you found one, don't rush to sell it immediately. Get it checked, verified, authenticated by a professional grading service. Because the real ones, the authentic 1955 double die pennies, those are the ones collectors will fight over. Now imagine this. You're sitting at home tonight. You grab a jar of coins. You start going through them one by one. At first, it feels pointless. Then suddenly, you see it. The letters look strange. You tilt the coin under the light. Your pulse starts to rise. Could this be it? That moment, that exact moment, is what keeps collectors searching. It's not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about finding something valuable where no one else thought to look. And right now, that opportunity still exists. Because even today, people are still finding these coins. Not every day, but often enough to keep the dream alive. So here's what I want you to do. Don't just watch this video and move on. Take action. Check your pockets. Check your drawers. Check that old jar sitting in your kitchen or garage. Look at every 1955 penny closely. Focus on the text. Look for that bold, unmistakable doubling. Because the difference between an ordinary penny and a life-changing coin is just one small detail, and most people never notice it. Before you go, I've got a question for you. Have you ever actually checked your coins before? Or have you been overlooking potential treasure this whole time? Stop scrolling, because the next penny you pick up could secretly be worth a life-changing amount of money, and most people are spending it without even noticing. Imagine this. You're at a gas station, you get a few coins back, and there it is. A simple, ordinary-looking penny. Nothing special at first glance. But what if I told you that one specific 1957 Lincoln penny, with an O mint mark, has shocked collectors, and in rare cases, sold for insane amounts of money? Yeah, we're talking about a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. And today, you're going to learn exactly what makes this penny so valuable, how to spot it, and why people are desperately searching through their change right now. So don't skip, because this could literally be sitting in your pocket. Now here's where things get interesting. The 1957 Lincoln penny is actually very common. millions were made. So normally, it's worth 1 cent. Maybe a few cents if it's shiny. But there's a twist. Some of these pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. And guess what? Back then, Philadelphia coins didn't use mint marks. So if your 1957 penny has no mint mark, that part alone isn't rare. But here's the mystery. Why are some of these exact same coins selling for hundreds, thousands, even rumored to reach unbelievable levels in private collector deals? It all comes down to tiny details most people completely miss. And I mean tiny. We're talking about errors, imperfections, and unusual features that turn an ordinary coin into a collector's dream. Let me tell you a quick story. A man in the US was going through a jar of old coins his grandfather left behind. Nothing fancy, just loose change collected over years. He almost ignored it completely. But something caught his eye. 1 penny looked slightly off. The letters weren't as sharp. The surface had a strange shine. And the date, 1957, looked just a bit unusual. That single coin? It ended up being worth thousands. Now imagine how many people never even look twice. Here's what you need to watch for. First, condition. If your 1957 penny looks brand new, like it was never used, that's already a big deal. Collectors call this uncirculated condition, and it can multiply the value instantly. But wait, this is where it gets exciting. There's a rare version called the 1957 double diode verse. Sounds complicated, but it's actually simple. It means the design on the front of the coin was accidentally stamped twice, slightly offset. And when that happens, you get visible doubling in the letters. Look closely at Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see a shadow effect, like the letters are doubled or blurry, you might be holding something special. And yes, people have sold these for thousands of dollars. Now pause for a second. Go grab any old pennies you have nearby. Seriously? I'll wait, because what I'm about to tell you next is something most people never check. Okay, you back? Good. Now flip the coin over. Look at the wheat ears on the back, because 1957 was one of the last years of the famous wheat penny design. If those wheat lines are super sharp and detailed, that's another good sign. But here's the real kicker. Some 1957 pennies were struck with errors like off-center designs, clipped edges, or even wrong metal mixtures. These are rare. Extremely rare, but when they show up, collectors go crazy. There have been cases where error coins like these sold for jaw-dropping amounts, way beyond what anyone expects from a penny. Now you might be wondering, okay, but what about the $1 million claim? Here's the truth. Most 1957 no mint mark pennies are not worth $1 million. Let's be real. But there's always a but in the coin world. If a coin has a unique combination of factors, perfect condition, rare error, and strong collector demand, it can reach unbelievable prices in private sales or auctions. That's where those crazy headlines come from. And honestly, that's what makes this so exciting. Because nobody knows what's still out there. Coins get lost, forgotten, or passed down all the time. And sometimes, the rarest ones are hiding in plain sight. Let me hit you with another quick reality check. Every single day, people unknowingly spend valuable coins. They toss them into vending machines, tip jars, or leave them sitting in drawers. Why? Because they don't know what to look for. But now, you do. So next time you see a 1957 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't just ignore it. Hold it. Inspect it. Check the lettering. Look for doubling. Examine the condition. Because that one coin could be worth way more than you think. And here's something most videos won't tell you. Even if your coin isn't worth thousands, it could still be worth more than face value. Collectors love older coins, especially wheat pennies. So you're never really losing by checking. But you could be missing out big time if you don't. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at your coins? not just glanced, but really looked, because after this, I guarantee you're going to start seeing pennies differently. That random coin in your car cup holder, that dusty jar in your kitchen, that handful of change in your wallet, yeah, it all just became a treasure hunt. And that's the fun part. You never know when you'll find something incredible. So here's what I want you to do right now. Comment below. Have you ever found a rare coin before? And if you're about to go check your pennies, type, "I'm checking," so I know you're on the hunt. Because trust me, you're not going to be the only one. And if you want more hidden money secrets just like this, coins people overlook every single day, make sure you subscribe. Because your next big discovery, it might already be in your pocket.